There may not have been many surprises this week, but we've had our first team get their first win and our first team get their first goal themselves. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Welcome to the show. Happy Monday. We've got a weekend full of football to chat through, as well as some upcoming Champions League fixtures to discuss. But first, this is your weekly reminder to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube so that you don't miss anything coming up on our channels. And make sure you're supporting us across Girls on the Ball as well. All social media platforms. We've got plenty of content coming out there too. So if you're subscribed, you won't miss anything. Okay, as always in the episode, we are going to run through the weekend results in the WSL and the Championship. Then, Sophie, you're going to pick out a player you would like to highlight and also perhaps a particular passage of play or a formation or a tweak, maybe that a manager made that stood out to you this week as well. And then you will also talk our listeners through our team of the week. And then we'll have a quick look ahead to the Champions League, which is back again, which I'm looking forward to. We're going to be doing a bit of travelling this time. I'm going to take this opportunity as well just to flag that we have been nominated in the FSA, Football Supporter Association Awards for the very first time. So that's very exciting. And it was a lovely surprise. So if you've enjoyed our 110 plus game coverage this year, or our Champions League or Nations League or FA Cup coverage, we did some extra fun bits this year, didn't we, Soph? It was a good one. Our little NWSL adventure maybe, or our under-17s World Cup coverage. We're particularly proud of that.
Yeah.
If you've enjoyed all of that, we'd really appreciate your vote. I'll make sure to drop a link in the show notes for you to follow and vote. So thank you so much. All right, let's crack on. This week in the Barclays WSL, as I said, perhaps not too many surprises. Arsenal 5, Brighton 0, Mead, Ford, Maunham, Hertig and Russo all getting on the score sheet there. Manchester City 4, Spurs 0, Bunny hat-trick Shaw with 3 of them, and Jill Ward getting on the score sheet again. Liverpool 0, Chelsea 3, Ramirez, Wrighton and Aggie Beaver-Jones getting the goals there. Crystal Palace 1, Everton 1, Riley and Hayashi getting the goals. West Ham 1, Leicester 0, Asai with the goal there. And then Manchester United 0, Aston Villa 0. So after a weekend of action, this is how the table looks right now. Man City are still sitting pretty on 19 points, 7 games played with 6 wins and a draw. Chelsea are snapping at their heels on 18 points, 6 wins from 6, but only 6 games played. Brighton have managed to retain third, despite their heavy defeat, 13 points. Arsenal have got themselves up to 4th with 12. And United are on the same tally as Arsenal, but they're in 5th on goal difference with a game in hand. And then down the bottom, for a moment, it looked like Villa might be nudging Everton up the table a little bit and out of the way. But they managed to get a point out of their game against United. So the Toffees do continue to prop up the table. They are on 3 points. Villa are on the same, but with better goal difference. And Palace and West Ham have kind of dragged themselves. Well, actually, Palace were kind of always a little bit out of that relegation battle for a while, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, results probably have pulled them back into it a little bit, but then you also have to look at what they've played.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are within the mix and probably as expected.
Yeah, so themselves and West Ham are both on 5 points. So very interesting down there. So I feel like with the way the games worked this weekend, I feel like we saw loads.
Yeah, we did.
Like so much football. We had the Friday night under the lights. We went to Arsenal versus Brighton, a match I was very intrigued with because I just didn't really know how it was going to go. I didn't know if we were going to see like the Brighton we saw at the beginning of the season who came out all guns blazing, whether we were going to see the Arsenal that have struggled in front of goal. And actually, it was kind of the opposite.
Brighton set up really weirdly. I'm not quite sure what they were doing in that first half. They were so lax out of possession.
Yeah.
And they just kept passing the ball out from the back and kept passing it to an Arsenal player. And every time they did that, Dario Vidicic would throw his arms up in the air on the sideline and kind of go, what on earth is going on here? So I think there were problems there. I think Arsenal played really well, though. I don't take that away from them. I think it was the kind of performance for Arsenal that we've been wanting to see in terms of like creating chances and kind of them putting those chances away. Their XG was pretty high. And yeah, getting 5 different goal scorers, 5 goals, some trademark goals as well.
Yeah.
Beth Mead in that first half, Frida Mornham as well with another trademark spectacular hit.
Unreal goal.
Which was definitely intended. It was definitely intended for the back corner, despite Dario saying in the post-match that he wasn't sure if it was a cross or not. It was definitely a shot. And then I think also it was just really probably really uplifting for Arsenal to play like that, especially in the first half. Brighton changed a few things in the second half. They did look a lot more solid. Kiko Seka hit the bar. They did have chances. I think Manu Zinsberger made a big save as well off Seko.
Yeah.
They did get better in that second half, but it was purely that first half, I think, that really saw them torn apart. I think particularly down the flanks, they just looked really vulnerable down that left side.
Yeah.
A really good evening for Arsenal. Lots of learnings for Brighton. I think it's not like catastrophic. The scoreline is heavy.
Yeah.
But they will take a lot of lessons from that, and I think they probably weirdly needed that before they got carried away with themselves this season.
I think it sounds cliche sometimes, but sometimes when you do okay against them, and they did, like they drew with United, they only lost, 1-0 against Manchester City, and sometimes that can, you don't get the context in the performance, and actually, like you say, it sounds cliche, but actually they will learn a huge amount from that, I think, as well. Great to see Lena Hurtig on the score sheet as well. She's back, and to have her score a goal was really nice to see as well.
362 days without flag in the back of the net.
Wow.
So incredible achievement there.
And yes, good for Arsenal as well with Champions League coming up this week to kind of have a performance like that, a much needed performance like that.
Such a big week for them with Champions League and then with the North London derby next weekend. So to kick it off like that and to be feeling quite confident and in form.
It kind of reminds me of the week where they had Bayern and then they had Chelsea. Like it's the same kind of vibe again, where it's like big games coming up, sandwiched with the Champions League sandwiched in the middle, but actually this time they've got a really good performance, which they needed. At the same time, on Friday was Manchester City against Spurs at the Etihad as well. I think there was around 9,000 or 10,000 people there to see that one. Bunny Shaw continues to be incredible. My God, Spurs must hate playing Manchester City, and not just Manchester City, but Bunny Shaw, because she scored another hat-trick against Spurs. She scored 2 hat-tricks against them last season.
She's ridiculous.
And she now tops the Barclays hat-trick charts. I think she's on 6. I think, So I don't know what you do against a player. Like, when it's almost like you just know how scary it is to come up against her. It must make it so hard to then defend against her, because you just 3 goals every time practically she's played them.
The thing is, like, she will more often score than not, whatever you do, but you also can't produce the kind of defending that Tottenham did to allow her to score.
That first goal, lordy.
If the first goal and the second goal,
28 seconds in, was it?
The first goal, I don't know what Claire Hunt was doing.
God love her.
I just don't know what she was thinking when you have Bunny Shaw bearing down on you like that. And you try and turn away from that. I just don't know what just kick it out for crying out loud. Just get rid of it. I know it's not really in Tottenham's way of playing, but in those moments you just have to be a bit more sensible, I think. And Bunny Shaw, when she gets given those opportunities, she's going to put them away. And the second goal as well, the header that came in, Claire Hunt, I think, again, just gave her way too much space. And yes, more often than not, Bunny Shaw's going to score that goal anyway, whether you're sticking to her or whether you're giving her space. But you certainly got to make her work a bit hard for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved her third goal.
Oh, I mean, and then of course our Jill Ward as well. Great goal, great to see her like back in flying form, back in an incredible amount of time, but also back scoring is just amazing and wonderful to see. I think that result also kind of highlighted again that Spurs have been struggling, and like I kind of fear that they're having one of those. They had an amazing season, and now of course they're struggling to kind of sustain that, and I guess the expectations are higher.
I think it's hard when you come, like, they're really wanting to find momentum at the moment, or like find some flow to the game, and they got their win last week. And you would think, in normal circumstances, you get that last ditch winner, you build the confidence, and then you come up against Manchester City, who are absolutely in ridiculous form this season. They're flying under Gareth Taylor at the moment. Mm-hmm. They're finding ways to win games all over the pitch. They've got Lauren Hemp in the form of her life. Actually, she's not dropped form in like the last 2 years, but she's in the form of her life at the moment. You've got Bunny Shaw, who's just ridiculous. You've got Jill Ward, who's come back from an ACL and looks like she never left. Jess Park, there's such a litany of kind of stars in that Manchester City team, so that your momentum from the last week is so hard to carry it through. And then I guess when you do drop a goal in the first 20 seconds or whatever it was, 40 seconds, then you're immediately on the back foot, and then all of that momentum is just suddenly lost, and you have no like grounding to build on. I think they did come into the game, after the second goal, they came into the game pretty well. I didn't really understand what Robert was trying to do. I got the concept of having Molly Bartrup in midfield.
So a 4-4-2.
Yeah, so Molly Bartrup was in the midfield alongside Evelyn Sumanen. I got the concept of it as more defensive structure, more of a screen in front of the defence, more protection. But I'm not sure I've seen that before. I may be wrong, but especially this season, I'm not sure I've seen Molly in midfield. And she has been probably the stronger of the two centre-back pairing. So I would have, just for me, the concept of messing with your centre-back pairing and moving the one out who has been probably the most solid of the two.
And then add to that Bethany England playing on the right.
Yeah, Beth England playing on the right. For me, she is a number 9 and her best out. She works really hard for a team, don't get me wrong, and she will always give her absolute everything. But I think when you have her as a number 9, she just is so instinctive in that position. And you put her up front. And then maybe, Jess Naz has the legs on her. Give her the chance to run down the wing. I know Speed it's not where people want to see her this season, but I just think, you're not going to get that many chances against a Manchester City. And when those crosses do come in, you need to have the person on the end of it who's most likely to score.
And effective, composed.
And the most likely to score in those positions is Beth in England. So,
well, Manchester City remain unbeaten. And again, good for them as they've got Champions League.
Can I just give one more shout out?
Go on.
I think she goes under the radar.
Go on.
But Ioba Fagino.
Okay, sure.
No one really talks about her because Lauren Hemp is putting in 3 assists a game. But I think she was quietly superb in that game. She was pressing on and off the ball. She was making chances for herself and for others. And I think is a really good sign for a player that's just come into the league.
Absolutely. Well done, Manchester City. All right. Next was I went to West Ham versus Leicester. I didn't expect this to be the most exciting game. It wasn't. I was a little bit worried that it was going to be a 0-0 draw because I think both teams have been struggling in front of goal. And both teams have been struggling a little bit for points as well, particularly West Ham. They hadn't got a win so far this season. They finally got it yesterday, and I think they deserved it. Of the two sides, I think they were the better side. It's a scrappy game. It was gritty. Neither team really found enough of a foothold, I felt. And I think West Ham deserved the goal. They got it deep into injury time in the first half. I do think they deserved it because I did feel like they were creating more positive runs in the box. Whether enough of it was on target, I'm not sure, but they were creating enough that I felt like they deserved to get ahead.
6 shots on target, if I'm not wrong, and that's the most they've got on target this season.
Yeah, and Leicester didn't look hugely dangerous. I can't think of too many good chances they had in the first half particularly. So yeah, it got a little bit nervy at the end, I'd say, for West Ham in terms of trying to hang on to that win. At times in the second half, they're like, no, we're going to push for second goal. And then as the clock went on, they kind of decided to maybe...
They will have been haunted by that game last week where they conceded in the 92nd minute. So, and Rianne had talked about that pre-match, about needing the mentality, to build the mentality to be able to not concede in those moments. But when it happens to you, you're going to remember it, especially so close behind. Leicester's got 1 shot on target for the second time in 2 weeks.
That's poor.
It's really poor, and I know that they've got a really big injury crisis. Yeah. I did talk to Omandi McGill beforehand. I asked her about her defensive structure because they've only conceded 6 goals in 7 games or something. Something like that. So they are getting it right defensively. They're not losing by big margins, and actually often that's the harder thing to come together.
Yeah.
But it's just their attacking play, their options from open play as well. The stats are really low for them in those regards. They're giving the opposition a lot of chances in open play. So they really need to tidy up in that kind of second area of the pitch where they are lacking in, capabilities up front. There isn't an out-and-out number 9 striker for them at the moment. They need Lena Petterman to come back, but I don't know how bad her knee injury is. They were playing Cayman up front again. She's not the answer. I don't think. As much as she tries hard and she's a quality and experienced player, I'm just not sure she's number 9 capabilities.
Shout out as well to Ueki. I thought she was great as well for West Ham, and Rianne has praised her a lot so far this season in terms of being key to them, getting results.
Flies under the radar.
She does, and she works very, very hard. So she played well yesterday as well. Some notes on some of the other fixtures. I managed to watch, I'd say, 70% of that Liverpool-Chelsea game en route to West Ham, and then listened to the end of it. Didn't quite live up to the game of the season that we had last season.
Can't expect them all to be games
I
of the
know,
season.
it's sure. You do have to factor in as well. I think Liverpool were missing Parry Hogg and Fugano as well, which wasn't great. You could kind of see that they were like particularly Sophie Roman Hogg up front. I think you could see she was missing, and Fugano. I thought they started relatively well. It's just they didn't really like capitalize on the opportunities they created.
They were stretching Chelsea early on. The runs of Keane and Olivia Smith in particular.
Yeah, Smith is great.
They were getting into good positions. They just didn't have that clinical side to them to actually fashion many chances. But they were stretching Chelsea. Chelsea looked a little bit uncomfortable. I think Liverpool were working really hard off the ball as well, when Chelsea were coming forward, and it was limiting Chelsea's opportunities on goal. But Chelsea are, at the moment, they're completely inevitable. They will find a way, and especially when you have Mayra Ramirez in the pitch. I thought she was brilliant throughout the game.
I think they were patient as well. Like they knew Liverpool were going to come at them, and I think that's something that's noticeable this season, is that they're more patient knowing it's going to come, as opposed to maybe worrying if we don't get a goal, what if? And they don't actually need to worry now. As you say, they're inevitable, so they're good to be patient. They are creating, Johanna Wright and Cannerid and Gura writing on either side, and as you say, Ramirez, Cuthbert. I think Shoska Nuskin was great as well. So
it was a very experienced performance,
mature performance. Yeah,
they kind of they were threatened maybe at times by Liverpool, but they didn't really panic as such, I don't think, and they just knew that those goals would come eventually, and they did. Yeah,
and I think as well, set pieces last season were amazing for Liverpool and Chelsea's downfall, but that was not to be. It wasn't the same weapon for Liverpool this time round. They didn't really get very much from them at all. I think at times distribution out from the back didn't help them. The right idea was there, but the execution wasn't great. And that's not just the second goal. So that will be frustrating for them as well. But I just feel like not only are Chelsea patient, but they're just more ruthless as each game goes on, in that you can just see them, they can sense that they're going to get it. Do you know that kind of way?
I mean, it's this whole thing, winning breeds confidence, right?
Yeah.
This is the best the best start to a season Chelsea have ever had. And,
crazy, isn't it?
When you think about what Chelsea have won in recent years, but then you do look back and go, well, they have had tricky starts at points, and they've always come from, in January, that's when they turn the burners on and leave other things were kind of dead. So, they've started so well this season. They're looking really bright and positive. And when you think about who's out as well, Lauren James, Kat Macario didn't play yesterday. Then you have Sam Kerr, who's coming back from ACL. Can't be before too long that we'll see her. Maybe just after Christmas.
Is Natalie Bjorn injured, or is she just...
I think she was on the bench because she played last week, I think.
Okay.
And then...
God, the depth they have.
They brought Lawrence on in the second half. They have so much depth. They could literally play 2 11s against
which is great for them with Champions League coming up, is that they're able to rest some players as well. So
you imagine against Celtic midweek, they'll bring in Aggie Beaver-Jones should get a start.
Yeah.
Vicky Captain should get a start. They'll switch things up a bit.
But I also think you have to give credit to Liverpool as well, knowing their results against Liverpool in the past. That could niggle at you, but it didn't.
Yeah.
They
dealt with their set pieces really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, quickly on to Crystal Palace versus Everton. A bit of a scare for Everton. I'd say they would have been looking at this game thinking this is where we can get our first win, and they conceded within the first minute.
20 seconds, I think it was.
India Paige Riley with the goal. Some dreadful defending, just non-existent defending.
Palpitations for any defender watching that back.
And I did think, as the game went on, it looked like Palace might actually hold on to this. But Hayashi managed to get a goal back for Everton in the 72nd minute with their first shot on goal, which is crazy. But that kind of livened the game up a little bit then, because both sides were then pushing for the win. It was Everton's first goal in 612 minutes that they have scored. One of their players has scored, because the only other goal they've scored this season was an own goal from West Ham. Yeah, so, it did open things up a little bit. I think it must be frustrating to watch a team not create any chances until the 72nd minute, and then suddenly they are starting to create things urgency.
I think for Palace, it's going to be all about learnings. I think they're doing enough at the moment to make me quite confident that they're going to stay up.
Yeah.
That they're going to stay up. But yes, I think it's all learnings at the moment. They're going to learn not to give up those chances and learn how to hold on to games. Maybe, when you score in the first minute, it actually causes you problems as well, because
you're like, do we go for another one? Do we try and hold this?
Yeah, it's they're kind of learning how to deal with those situations, I think. Can I just shout out Hanukkah Hayashi though, because I think she is another chronically underrated player in the league. She was brilliant at West Ham, and she's getting game time now at Everton, and hopefully she will be part of their revival this season because she works so hard for the team. She's just non-stop bundle of energy, and she has a finish on her as well. So I think, I just wanted to shout her out as well. And also go and read Emma Sanders' article on the BBC about Everton and the kind of current financial situation that is causing the women's side a lot of problems.
I was just going to say as well, I do think Palace are learning incredibly quickly in this league, and I think you can see that in each performance, so worth pointing out.
And they get 2 more wins and they're pretty much safe, I think. So
okay, then we had the final match. I managed to get home for this one, Manchester United versus Aston Villa. Love a Sunday evening in front of telly watching football. Unfortunately, it was not the most exciting game. Villa started very well. Villa played very well throughout, actually, I think. United does, you were saying this to me, quite passive in the press, which, to be fair, United are normally, we've seen them press well in the past. We saw them against Brighton. Brighton couldn't get out of their own half in the first half.
Yeah, but it's been
sporadic.
Way too few times this season.
Yeah.
Really, they won their first game against West Ham pretty comfortably. West Ham did trouble them, though. I think people forget that.
Same with Everton.
Everton, they won because Everton passed it to Grace Clinton almost. And they won that game by that. But then Everton came back at them and could have scored.
Yeah.
Their first half against Brighton was brilliant in terms of their pressing and their energy. But then they lost it in the second half and they faded away. And then you would argue that they were the, second best team against Arsenal last week, and they were really lucky to come away with a point. And it was only a bit of magic from Rachel Williams and Melvin Mallard, combined, that kind of impact substitution that got them back into that game. So they are getting points, and that's key, I guess.
They're unbeaten.
But they aren't looking great, and they are dropping further and further off the top of the table.
Yeah,
and they haven't played City or Chelsea.
Yeah, now I think, Villa will be frustrated. Robert DePaul will be frustrated because he still hasn't got his first win yet. But Villa kind of were allowed to kind of build into the game and start creating chances. They dominated possession. They dominated shots created. They dominated shots on target, total touches in the box. United had one shot on target. I was just
sitting, this is the football fan that I am. I was just sitting there watching Villa's press going, it's like, that's such a pretty press.
She actually said that out loud while we were watching the match. I was like, all right.
As they all activated it at the same time, I was just like, that's so pretty.
Yeah, it's great to see when one player goes and everyone follows instead of that thing where one player goes and everyone's like, oh, good luck. And obviously it doesn't work on your own. It was a very good press.
Brings me joy in life. It's pretty presses.
And it was a very good performance from Villa after the difficult game they had last week, particularly that first half. So, this is what Villa can do. And it was more like the Villa we saw against Chelsea at the beginning of the season.
I still, there were bits and bobs. So I'm so glad he reverted to his previous formation because that was just a disaster the week before. But I do think there are they looked a lot more stable in midfield with Staniforth. Staniforth had the best game for quite a while, I think.
Yeah. And
Jordan Nobbs was superb next to her in the midfield area. And then, but I do still question the use of Rachel Daly deeper. I think, especially in that second half, they were putting crosses into the box and the timing of her runs, her instinctiveness as a number 9.
In the air
just
as well,
needed
she's great.
Rachel Daly on the end of them, and yet she was just a few yards too deep because she was playing in that number 10 role. So I do question that because I do understand that Gabby Nunes has started well. She's got 2 goals in her first 2 games for Villa, but you're sacrificing probably your most potent number 9 at the moment on form.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we'll move on to the Barclays Championship now. We have Southampton 1, Durham 1, Bristol City 2, Newcastle 0, London City 1, Birmingham 2, Portsmouth 1, Sheffield 1, Sunderland 2, Blackburn 1. So the table looks like this. Birmingham have managed to separate themselves a little bit now from the rest of the pack. They are on top on 19 points. London City and Durham are below them respectively on 16 points. Now, keep up here because we then have Southampton, Bristol, Charlton and Newcastle on 14 points. Sunderland are on 13 points. So if you've kept up with that, then yes, that does mean that there are 3 points separating second and eighth, which is that's like an 8-horse race now, which is just insane. Portsmouth remain bottom of the table, but they did pick up their first point. So that's something against Sheffield.
First point. A great goal from Lily Dent as well.
Yeah. And it does keep them in touch with Blackburn, who are just above them on 3 points, which is important to be in that touching distance. So if you were at the top of the table clash between London City and Birmingham, just give us a quick little flavour. How was that?
It was good. I think Birmingham deserved to be more up in their first half. They were all over London City. London City didn't really know what hit them. I think it was maybe, I spoke to Amy Merritts afterwards, and she said, because the 2 goals came from their centre-backs, from like heading in from crosses, and she said like I think they just did enough to get goals from open play as well, and I agree with them. I think in the second half, Jocelyn Pressure, he changed things up a bit, brought on Isabel Goodwin, who just can run out of defence. She has so much speed on her. And she was unlucky not to get a goal. Actually, it was a brilliant stop from Lucy Thomas. So they could have pulled one back earlier. They were better in the second half, but they didn't do enough. And I think Birmingham managed the game really well. They've now got a pretty healthy goal difference as well at the top of the table. So while London City have a game in hand, they have the healthier goal difference. And it's a Birmingham City bye week next weekend. So they've got 2 weeks off now.
Okay. It's now the time of the week to pick a player that you want to highlight. She does this every week, like she hasn't thought about it.
Just one player?
Just one.
I mean, it would be maybe wrong not to give it to Bunny Shaw just because of her stats. And she is just the best goal scorer, I think, on the planet at the moment. Best striker on the planet. I think she does so much that goes under, like she's known for her goals, but the work that she does off the ball, her defending from the front as well, I think is really important.
She's very involved in the creation of opportunities as well, because she will drop deep to get the ball and create those opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think she has just become the player that everyone hoped she would. She had the signs when she signed for Manchester City that she would be that player. And you can fully see that now, that she's thriving in one of the most competitive leagues in the world.
Any analysis side of things, like what would you like to pick? Is there any kind of passage of play or tweak or anything like that? Do you want to highlight the Villa press again?
I could highlight the Villa press again, yes. I think, well, maybe both things. I think I do think the stability came from that Jordan Nobbs standing forward for midfield, and I was so impressed. But then also the back line, Anna Patton is having a phenomenal season.
Player of the match.
She's been in our team of the week several times this year so far, maybe again. Spoiler alert. But yeah, no, I just think they're trying to get that defensive structure right. And for Aston Villa, they need to start scoring goals. But if you get your foundations right, that's probably a good start. And that looked really good. But yeah, the way that all of them were quite on song in activating that press. And it wasn't just for the first half. They managed to carry it on pretty much the whole game. Mm-hmm. United didn't really get, maybe they had 5 minutes sniff here and there of possession and pressure, but they generally kept it pretty compact and they kept the energy up.
Can I give a referee shout out?
Yes.
I think many people will say that they should have got this decision right anyway, but I want to shout it out anyway because it was a very quick thought process. First of all, the referee in the West Ham Leicester game got injured. I think she pulled her calf or something about 30 or so minutes in. So 37 minutes in. So the first substitution was the referee. And Abigail Byrne was the fourth official, handily enough. So she came on to referee, which in itself, when you're totally prepped for a different job, I guess, to be able to do that. But there was a great moment where I think it might have been Asai who got fouled as she passed the ball to Pavi on the left side of the goal, coming up to the box. And it was a really quick passage of play. She got fouled. And then a couple of seconds later, Pavi picks up the ball and goes to take the shot. And the referee's whistle blows and to bring the play back. And Pavi initially goes mad, right? Actually, Pavi was offside. And I think a lot of referees might have just gone, you're offside, advantage over, free out. And actually, the advantage, really, it wasn't over, that it hadn't even been that long.
That happening a lot more these days.
It's a very quick decision to be able to be like, bang, offside's up, but the advantage hasn't been finished, so actually come back and get the free. And it's funny because Pavi was given out, and I was like, mate, this is good for you. Stop complaining.
Stop complaining.
But I wanted to highlight that. I thought it was a very, very quick thought process, and I know many will say you should just get that right anyway, but I thought it was very good. Okay, quickly, chat us through your team of the week, please. Our team of the week. Depending on what people respond to it.
I might change this halfway through because it's still a work in progress.
No, I think it's good.
No, I might change my midfield.
I think that one was all right.
You think so?
Yeah.
The centre back.
Oh.
Or the midfield.
The midfield, I thought was fine.
Not Gerald.
Oh. Go on.
Okay. Which one should I go?
I don't know. You decide when you get there.
Okay, so I think we'll start with Tullis Joyce in goal once again. She pulled off some big stops against Aston Villa and really denied them in that first half. Really big save
win
of Jordan Nobbs.
Yeah.
That was such a big save. And then I've got Emily Fox on the right back again because I thought she really sort of sets a tempo for Arsenal. And I just remember her breaking through about 3 players before being wiped out by Guru Bugs fan. So
yes,
there we go.
Okay, you can't give this much detail for every
I'm just going. Then I've got Anna Patton, who was superb. You voted for Amber Tiziak in the back line. I'm not arguing with it, but I haven't actually seen all of that game, so I'm trusting your
I was quite
instincts.
impressed with her because Leicester were really reduced to very little. Yeah. So.
And then we got Katie McCabe, 2 assists, I think, on Friday.
Yeah.
So, I thought she was brilliant again. Beth Mead on the right. We're going 4-4-2, by the way. Beth Mead at right wing. Jordan Nobbs in the middle alongside...
Sorry, you're stuck.
Nuskin. Nuskin and Nuskin. The other person I was going to put in was Jill Rod, but I'm going to go with Nuskin because I thought she kind of quietly held everything together for Chelsea. Then you've got Lauren Hemp out on the left, Bunny Shaw up front alongside Mayra Ramirez.
It's a good team of the week. I think there weren't loads of standout performances, but then there's some positions where you're like, actually, there was a couple of people who could have been. So always a difficult job. But do let us know who your top 11 would be for this week. All right, very quickly, Champions League is back. Match day 3 returns this week. First up for the English teams, Arsenal are away to Juventus. Sadly, not in Turin this time, like last time, but about an hour outside in a place called
It's meant to be very pretty.
I don't care. It's a 5:45 kickoff.
There's a mountain nearby.
There was mountains near Turin. They were beautiful when we flew in. Anyway, it's an hour outside Turin. It's an hour and a half outside Milan. So kind of nowhere near anything. So we will be doing that one. Then on the same night, Manchester City are at home to Hammarby. That should be a fun one at the Joy Stadium. And on Wednesday, Chelsea are away to Celtic, which we will be doing as well. And we will be travelling via Dublin because that's the only way to get there from Italy. So any other business?
You have to say Italy. There.
Italy. It's like when I say Barbados. You have to say Italy in that accent. This week, we are planning to have a special Bristol City episode coming out on Thursday. I'm going to do my very best. You've got a busy week, but I'm going to try and get that out for you. As I said, we'll be covering Juventus versus Arsenal and Celtic versus Chelsea. Then there are some big fixtures next week. We've got the North London derby at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and a top-of-the-table, mouth-watering clash between Chelsea and Manchester City at Stamford Bridge. You'll be at both of them.
I will be.
I'll be at the latter. Also next week, I believe every game in the WSL and the Championship will be played in the team's main stadia. So that's very cool. And a reminder that if you'd like to vote for us, by the way, in the FSA, so I'm going to throw that in there again just to give ourselves another plug. Our first time being nominated, I will include a link in the show notes for you to do that. We'd really appreciate it. So yeah, plenty coming up this week and you won't miss any of it if altogether now you're following us across our platforms and you are subscribed wherever you listen or watch your pods. That's everything for today. It's been a busy week and a great week. Hope you all have a good week, guys, and we will chat to you again very soon.